evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out on a Thursday night to another celebration of all the good work that we do with WEDCO, the Economic Development Corporation. First off, I want to thank all of our sponsors. You see the boards around the room. It'll be part of the presentation, but also I want to thank all the WEDCO board members. If you're a WEDCO board member, would you please stand up so that we can appreciate your contribution to our economic development success. Thank you so much. Okay, so we've done this now probably for about 15 years, and every presentation is an absolute adventure because of our most charismatic and dynamic mayor, who has now been mayor of the good town of Woodbridge for more than 18 years. He is the 19 years tomorrow, he's letting me know. So round about the time he passed 18, he was the longest serving mayor in Woodbridge Township history. So please help me welcome a man who needs no introduction, Mayor John McCormick.
Thank you very much. That's Marta Levski. She's our planning director and the president of the Woodbridge Economic Development Corp. And Bruce Springsteen has a song that's called Living in the Future, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. Today is not Thursday. Today's Wednesday. So those of you who said, shoot, I missed something today, don't worry, today is Wednesday. You didn't miss anything. I'm also joined by my right arm for the last 19 years tomorrow, Carolyn Ehrlich, Chief of Staff and Head of Redevelopment. And best friend for almost 30 years. We go back to the 90s when Carl was on the council and I was the town CFO, and we did a whole lot of great stuff together. We have a lot of our town council members, 5 of whom are newly elected. First Ward Councilwoman Sharon McAuliffe, Second Ward Councilman, go ahead. Second Ward Councilman Howie Bauer, Third Ward Councilman Corey Spiller, Fourth Ward Councilman Viru Patel, and Fifth Ward Councilwoman Debbie Meehan. All 5 got between 60 and 70%. Last Tuesday, 8 days ago, we're still recovering, but congratulations. I do a lot of things as the chief executive, but in the form of government we have, almost anything I do has to get the approval of the town council, so we have to work together, and we do. We also have 2 councilmen at large, Kyle Anderson and Brian Small. Thank you. From our administration, we have Business Administrator Vito Samaluka, Rec Director Brian Molnar, Engineer Mike Gellin, Health Director David Kolodzinsky, Public Works Director George Brew, our Communications Director who helped put this all together, John Haggerty, with his assistant Megan Kushpa, her assistant Kelly Walsh, our TV 35 crew, Emil, and also Will, Brian Austin from our IT, Billy McGee doing all the other work, getting everything out here. So thank you to everybody, and let's get started. So just to start with a picture of a few things that have happened over the last several years. A lot of different, you're too small for most of you to see. Next slide, please. More of the same. If anybody sees your own slide, we can print it out for you and autograph it for you for a very small charge. Please make checks payable to my grandson's college fund. Next up, more of the same. I'd like to thank the Woodbridge Chamber of Commerce. Now it matters, and I say this all the time, it matters that the town has a relationship and that the town has a strong Chamber of Commerce. People, when they're looking to come to town, expand in town, they want to see that there's a great relationship, and they want to see that the business environment is strong, and that's because we have an amazing Chamber of Commerce. We have our director, president of the Chamber of Commerce, head of the board, Holly Church Doyle. We have Mary here, we have Amanda here, a whole lot of members here. If you're in the Chamber of Commerce, stand up. Now, next slide, please. Almost anything, it seems like the most activity we've had over the last several years 5 or more in town has been in the Avenel section of town. I would submit that a whole lot of it depends on that box in the middle, which is Station Village. When we put 500 apartments on the train station and took away a very, very highly contaminated site and got it all cleaned up with somebody else's money, that led to 500 people with money, walking wallets, walking pocketbooks, living right downtown. That sparked everything else. So when people talk about the apartments on Main Street, they're full of baloney. Those matter, and it's really mattered in Avenel. Bussin' Empanada is owned by a couple of police officers. R & Beans Coffee on Avenel Street, Avenel Barbecue on Rahway Avenue, Chipotle on Route 35. What is that one over there? You can't see it. Oh, the Snacks and Coffee in a strip mall on Route 35, and then there's a nursing school there. The big one, of course, right on the site of these apartments. Next slide. Formerly Curtains, now called Caroline's Tavern, not named after Carolyn Ehrlich, I should say. Everybody thinks it is. It's not. Phil is here. He'll swear to it. That's a shot of our grand opening. It's great. Curtains was good. Caroline's is great. If you haven't been there, the whole place looks better. The menu is better. The people who go to the shows like it a lot better. It's been terrific. And Phil has plans to do a restaurant called Violet's under off of the apartments across from Town Hall, the Madeira Apartments. They're 6,000 square feet. He's turning that into Violet's. It's patterned after Violet's Cellar in Staten Island, which he owns with his partner Peter. We have basically taken a lot of Staten Island over to Woodbridge. You got a very successful restaurant there called Angelina's, and Angelina's in the house. Her son Vinny runs Angelina's Kitchen in Staten Island. Now he also runs Angelina's Kitchen on Main Street on the former Hess site. That's a phenomenal restaurant. We actually stole Strickland's. Mike Strickland is from Port Reading, born in Woodbridge, educated, lived here his whole 36-year life. He owns the West Shore Inn, the most successful steakhouse in Staten Island. He owns Strickland Steakhouse in Woodbridge. We had an event a couple of years ago where we invited all kinds of Staten Island businesses, and we got all the best ones here now. Next up is another slide about Avenel. Some of these are older projects, but thanks to Corey Spiller, Councilman Spiller, we had to convince Corey, before he was a councilman, he was you would call him today, an influencer. He was a fire inspector, very active in town. There's a reason we asked him to run for council when the opening came up. But we went to his house and sat down and said, here's what we're doing. He lives 7 doors away from Station Village. We're looking at making it apartments. We got to clean it up. You're living near a highly contaminated site. It can't be good for raising 3 little kids in town. And he bought in and was 100% supportive. Now he's the councilman of probably the most active section of town. So thank you, Corey Spiller. Next up is Cloverleaf Shopping Center, which I hate to call it a shopping center because it's so much more than that. This has just opened up a couple of weeks ago on Route 1 at the corner of Route 1 and Route 35. It's a site that was troubled for years. We had it in court. The owners weren't doing much with it. Always claimed it was not rentable. It certainly was, as the ultimate results have proven. There, on the bottom right, you see the companies that are there. These are high-end retail shops. Paris Baguette is opening up in late December. A lot of people have heard of that. I think there's one in Edison on Route 1 South toward Highland Park. We have Nasto's Ice Cream, which is out of the Ironbound section in Newark. They've never had a retail store outside of Newark. Their first one's going to be in Woodbridge. It's a pretty serious deal. Honey Grow, that's opening up December 22nd. December 21st, Honey Grow is opening up, another wonderful store. If you can't read it, the hallmark of Club Pilates, a Hummus Republic, where I'll probably never visit. Laser Away, a whole bunch of, just quality, high-end retail stores. And Sprouts is a winner. Sprouts is terrific. We had the grand opening there. It was packed. People absolutely love it. Wick Builders is a phenomenal developer. They did 2 of our senior buildings. We'll see them later. But this has been an amazing success. And all the people that said this will never be developed were absolutely wrong, because all it took was the right development company to come in, and they have a waiting list. In fact, Carol said, send us your sloppy seconds. Send us anybody who you can't rent to because you don't have the space, and we'll find something for them on Main Street. Next up, we have the one that we managed to keep a secret for over 2 years, Trader Joe's. That's a big deal. We would love to say we recruited them. We'd love to say that we really worked hard to get them here, but we didn't do anything. They just came here. And I hope they came here because of what they see as a good business environment, but they went to that strip mall. It's a gigantic strip mall behind Bonefish Grill and Buffalo Wild Wings. They have a store there. It used to be Bed Bath & Beyond. I don't say that because then it confuses it, where Bed Bath & Beyond used to be further down Route 1 South next to the Parkway. But they're in their old store, and they had an opening very quietly. They didn't want any publicity, didn't want us with cameras all over the store. So we went out last week and just stood. We had to stand outside because they didn't want to mess with their clients' experience. But it was it's a fantastic catch for Woodbridge, and people are going crazy about it. And like I said, we managed to keep it secret for 2 years. Next up, Colonia is no stranger to some of the economic development. Tim Hortons. I had no idea Tim Horton was one of the top 100 hockey players in hockey history. I walked in there a couple of weeks ago and I said, why are there hockey sticks as door handles? I had no idea. But the first thing you see is a giant picture of Tim Horton, and it's a wonderful addition to Colonia Inman Avenue, where they don't really need a lot because they have a lot, but this has been fantastic. Next slide. That is on the left, the Greenstead Avenue, which is 100 apartments right across from the prison. You see some open land on the right. We are developing that into a 60-unit veterans housing site. So it's going to be staffed by a company called Soldier On. So it will be 100% veterans who need housing. And we all know now that's one of the big issues with veterans. These young men and the older veterans from the older wars, come back from serving overseas, seeing things they never should have, anybody should ever have to see, experiencing things nobody should ever have to experience, and they have all kinds of issues, and they have trouble qualifying for housing. Well, we're going to put 60 units right there with the same company who built those units, which are targeted to special needs adults, and that'll be right there in Avenel. Another great thing for that section of town. Next slide, please. Now, Metro Park is a project that I was not actually crazy about when it was first announced. In fact, I went to the groundbreaking and sat in the back and avoided the media because I was not crazy about Metro Park becoming known as a place for more apartments. I thought that was not the best use of the site there. It was out of our control. It's owned by New Jersey Transit. We can't tell them what to do, so we just went along to get along with the state. The last thing you want to do is make an enemy out of the state of New Jersey when you're trying to do so many things with them. But then they announced that the first thing they were going to do was not apartments. The first thing they were going to do was build a 10-story office building, and that was good. What was even better is they said the main tenant is going to be Hackensack Meridian Health. That sold us. That's all we needed to know. And now I would submit that we're going to become, Hackensack Meridian is going to become to Woodbridge what Robert Wood Johnson's going to be, or already is, to New Brunswick. They're not going to be done with just that 10-story building. There's other space in Metro Park. We're very confident they're going to look to expand, even though they didn't even open yet. It's one of the fastest construction projects you'll ever see. Terminal construction, I don't know how they do it, but that thing went up. It's going to open up probably in April, right? April's going to open up. I can't believe how fast it went up, but they're going to be there, their headquarters. All their high executives are all going to be here in Woodbridge, and that's people that are going to go out and shop, go out and dine, go out and buy gas, and it's just going to be great for the town to have that here. We also have up the hill to the right, Woodmont is putting in senior apartments as well as market rate apartments. That's been approved for a while. They just haven't started yet. 70 Wood Avenue is a building that's been vacant for 10 years. They have a concept, of course, of apartments also, but also 100 small office suites in that spot. And we think that makes a lot of sense. It's not pure apartments, it's a lot of offices and housing. Around the corner, interestingly, the company Crossings that owns what we used to call Bristol Arms when I was a kid on Gill Lane, right at the end of Gill Lane. Now it's the crossings at Metro Park. There's 100 and some odd apartments, old, built in the 50s, not terribly attractive. Sorry, Lisa, don't tell your bosses I said it was not attractive. But it's going to be turned into luxury apartments right around the corner from Metro Park, right down the street. People can walk right to the train. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. HMH has gotten an Aspire grant, they call it, from the state EDA. They have to spend in Woodbridge Township over 10 years, $3.5 million, $350,000 a year, all on healthcare related items. They're going to give us a full-time person who's going to be responsible. They're going to work with David in the health department and our nursing staff and our health educators, and they're going to get to the schools and to the senior clubs, and they're going to do all kinds of wonderful things with that money, and we couldn't be happier. They're also a sponsor of the World Cup in the Meadowlands, I think next year or the year after, and they were looking for a place to build a soccer field for kids, and they wanted to do it in Woodbridge because now they're going to be headquartered here, and we're putting up a really nice soccer field, not just on grass, but it's almost like an indoor soccer field outdoors, and that's going to be at our Acacia Center in downtown Woodbridge, where there's always a youth center and a basketball court. So it's absolutely terrific for us. There's also a program where they're going to help us with homeless people. It's right by Raritan Bay. We're only pretty much a mile away from Raritan Bay Medical Center. So they're going to help us with a whole lot of that stuff. They're just an absolutely amazing tenant there, and we couldn't be happier with them. Next slide, please. Oak Tree Road actually has the top 4 jewelry stores in India all have a branch or will have a branch shortly on Oak Tree Road. The largest is Malabar. I think the second largest is Callion. The third largest is Joya Lucas, which is opening up at the old Clove restaurant. When I was growing up, it was Flip's Tavern. Definitely an improvement over Flip's Tavern. And the fourth is Tanishq. So no place in the country are those 4 largest chains in India in one spot in America except Oak Tree Road. We're investing a good deal of money in splitting with the merchants on a major sidewalk plan. That's a very dysfunctional street logistically because the sidewalks aren't even. Some are too far from the curb, some are too far from the stores. It really is disjointed, and we're going to go through it with experts and come up with a plan and beautify it, and we're going to be counting on the people in there to help us out. Next up is something that's been really good for Woodbridge. The Seawarren section of town has also gotten a major revitalization. The township is moving the dog park, building a brand new dog park. To the right there, you see the brown rectangle. That's going to be parking where the dog park is now. We're building a gigantic new big dog park for big dogs and small dog park for small dogs. In the back there is more parking. You can see that little orange, little yellow circle in the middle. That is our pride and joy. That's the Anchor's Tiki Bar. Started out in the middle of 2024. Was successful this year, absolutely successful. It's been tremendous. And we're going to be doing dock and dine slips. We're going to be doing dredging starting, I think, sometime in December. You have to worry about when the flounder and the fluke are around. You can't dredge at certain times. There's also going to be a walkway to the left. You see in the bottom left is a bridge that's going to connect our parking there to the county park, Alvin P. Williams, which is an absolutely beautiful park. And I think I mentioned the dock and dine slips around the Tiki Bar, so you can pull up your boat, get on the ladder and come on up. It's amazing. The county also gave us a grant. We're buying a couple of houses next to our parking lot on the top left and turning that into parking. And they also gave us the money so we could buy an open area and keep it as open space. So the people in Seawarren were always worried about what might be built there. Years ago, there was plans to put 30 apartments to block your view of the water. It would have been absolutely horrible. And now we're going to actually buy it with money from the county and protect it from development. Next slide, please. This is another one that's, boy, is this taking a long time. This is in Caseby on the Edison border by Raritan Center. It's going to turn into an absolutely beautiful Woodbridge waterfront park, but it has taken so unbelievably long because it's involving the EDA and the EPA. The cleanup has been so bad. It was one of the most contaminated sites, probably the worst in town, one of the worst in the county, and maybe even the state. But you see some pictures of what it's going to start to look like, and it's going to be an amazing resource in Woodbridge Township. We have somebody that comes to the council meetings every 3 months and asks us what's going on with it. We don't control what's going on with it. The federal and state governments have to tell us when it can open, and they'll do that when they're through with all the studies that they have to do and all the testing that they have to do. I thought it would be open in 24. I thought it would be open in 25. I'm not going to say anything about 26 because I'll probably be wrong. Next up, we have a little look at some of the projects in town. I'm going to turn it over to Carol, and she's going to talk a little bit about all of the specific economic development projects that are going on in town now.
Thank you, Mayor. The mayor did mention Angelina's, which is one of our newest restaurants in town, but I want to say happy birthday to Angelina, and thank you for being here on your birthday. So moving a little further down Main Street to downtown, Strickland's has been very, very successful. It's voted, I think, the #2 steakhouse in New Jersey. They are now working on an expansion. They are leasing the next door, and they are going to use that as a banquet facility. A couple of doors away, Vito Mazza is one of our oldest businesses in town. My beauty is all due to them. And they have, they've moved over to Rahway and Green in that retail section. And they are going to be demolishing their building and building some apartments and retail and hopefully a restaurant on their roof. So that's a really exciting opportunity. And I do want to give Vito Mazza a little bit of credit because they were one of the first, as we talked about, redoing the downtown. And they are one of the oldest businesses here. And they were one of the first businesses to jump on the bandwagon and say, we want to be a part of this. So we're very grateful to their leadership. Moving down the street a little bit more, next to where the train is, we're building on Fulton Street. It's called the Hamilton, and they are doing some residential there too. Costello's is at the planning board right now, so let's all say a prayer for them. They're looking to do 35 apartments behind their building, and a lot of our redevelopment is because, to quote the mayor, we're getting rid of crap. And behind Costello's, were two buildings that attracted people and things that we don't really want in our downtown. So by demolishing those buildings, we are making the downtown a much better place. Moving up the street now, moving up to the bowling alley property, we're going to be having self-storage there. That is the best to have. If we have to have anything there, that's the best because it creates no traffic. And that intersection is even with the improvements, it's a really busy traffic circle. So we're very happy that we're getting that there. In Menlo Park Terrace, we have Kelly Street Seniors. And pretty soon we will have a home. So many of our seniors say, we want to stay in town, but there's no place for us to live. So this is going to be apartments strictly for seniors. Behind the best pancake house in town on Route 1, we have the Woodbridge Suites, which is an extended stay facility. In Case B, we are looking forward to a warehouse being built. I think on Smith Street, some of those old homes are already coming down, and that will be a big improvement there. In Penval, the same developer is working with Amazon to build some small buildings, and they have Amazon as a tenant, and it is a site where their trucks get compressed, what's it called? Compressed gas. So that is great. And the dirt pile, which has been there before we were here and has been a challenge for like how many years? Like 25? So they have a developer there. They're working with the DEP, and God willing, that dirt pile will be removed, and within the next few years, we will be seeing warehouse there. For those of you who drive down St. George and you see Jammers and you go, why is that still there? It's finally got sold, and it looks like it's going to be a laundromat, which isn't a bad use, not great, but it's a good use for there. And but what I want to point out about that is we have a program that's called Abandoned Property, and if you end up on our list of abandoned property for 6 months, that gives us the power to condemn you. So Jammers was on the list for 6 months. So our attorneys sent them a letter and said, we are proceeding to do condemnation. Within a month, they had somebody in to, so it's we don't necessarily have to condemn. Sometimes you just have to make a threat. On Route 1, if you go all the way down Inman Avenue, there is a property there that's really, it's like a junkyard. It's really, really awful. This is another case of, it's not great, but it's better than what we have there now. And they're going to be building some office space and trailer repair. El Baron, which is in the heart of Avenel in the junkyards, they took one of the most contaminated sites in town, and they have finished the cleanup, and they are about ready to start moving ahead to the construction phase, and they will be building a warehouse. Another project in Avenel, Corey, he just keeps getting projects after projects. It's called Campania, and that is a company that makes pizza boxes and pizza supplies. They're buying the building next to them, and then they are going to attach to the railroad spur so that they can start to move their products through the railroad. Cambria on Route 1. So that's going to be a beautiful, beautiful hotel. It was the City Star, and what bar was that? Fitzgerald's Bar. And it just, that project took maybe a decade to happen. Marta and Heather were saying to me, they were rolling their eyes and they were saying, Carol, stop believing this guy. It's never going to happen. So I was really excited because they did demolition a week or two ago, and that hotel is being built, and it will be a great asset on Route 1. And also in Avenel, we have the warehouse that was built by Morris Company, and they are negotiating with a phenomenal tenant. I can't say anything yet, but if you know anybody who was thinking about going there, let Morris know right away, because you're going to miss your chance. Did you? I didn't see you talk about Steve Jobin and Perth Amboy. Do you want me to cover that?
No, I'll cover it.
You got it? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. So a lot of guys smile when they mentioned she mentioned Fitzgerald's Bar on Route 1. How many guys have been there? Yeah, a lot. Nothing to be proud of.
I know they're all your friends.
Huh?
They're all your friends.
They're all my friends that went there. I was there once. My friend's father was a bartender. I went there once, and my mother would never let me go again. All right, next up we have, now this is interesting because we did the first WEDCO seminar in 2007, and we took pictures of all the spots in town like that on the top left, the old motels which were junk, and we showed them, we said we're going to get rid of this and we're going to get rid of this and get rid of that. And I had Doug Doyle from Dakota sitting in the front row on one side and Bill Northgrave from McManaman, Scotland on the other side. They were our redevelopment attorneys, and every time I bashed the heck out of these sites, they were cringing, like, don't say that, you can't, don't do that, don't say that, but it worked. We're down to 3 spots left that need help. The first one on the left really doesn't need any specific help other than it's available. It's 6 acres on Broadway Avenue. We thought that was going to be the site of the new school 4 and 5. Under the old school administration, they wanted to move the school there and build a brand new one there. The new administration came in, liked the concept of neighborhood schools better, so they decided to knock down 4 and build a new 4, and right next to it is 5. They would refurbish that, just like we did downtown. We built a new Ross Street and refurbished Woodbridge Middle. So that's not really a bad site, but it is available. It's 6 acres. We're getting close to going out with an RFI, a request for interest, to see what people think they could do there. But it's several $1 million sitting there in our budget that we don't have yet, that we're going to get someday. Route 1 and Evanel in the middle, that is the Corral site between a couple of seedy motels. That's available, and on the right is another site on Route 1, an old auto body shop that's available. So we went from having pages and pages of spots that we wanted to be developed, and one at a time they all were. Next slide. Now the biggest issue from an economic development standpoint for us right now is Woodbridge Center. Like any other mall across the states, they've been struggling. The Amazons of the world have really taken a toll on the mall, although some people, we read a lot that says malls might be making a comeback. But Woodbridge Center has struggled and continues to struggle. They made one very good move. The Lord & Taylor building was sold to AccuReference Labs. That's a very nice company. They're going to have 300 employees, all making very good salaries in that facility, hopefully shopping at the mall, dining at the mall while they're there during the day and maybe after work. So it's a good thing for the mall. Sears has been closed for a long, long time. The building is probably not salvageable. We're in contact with the new owners. So what happened was Woodbridge Center owed $200 and something million on its debt, not because of Woodbridge Center, but they cross-collateralized another mall and borrowed against Woodbridge Center for that mall, and that left Woodbridge Center really in bad financial shape. So a hedge fund from Wall Street bought a $220 million loan for $80 million and then did a friendly condemnation and now owns the mall. So they got a huge asset for only $80 million. They're very good, Sage Hall partners. We've met the owners. With now their representative is a guy with an amazing amount of mall experience. We meet with them once a month. We can't say anything about what they're thinking. I said, if we can keep Trader Joe's secret for 2.5 years, we can keep Woodbridge Center's secret for 2.5 years. It's going to take that long, but they have some really, really solid leads, and they have some really, really solid plans. They hired a company out of DC to help them with the marketing of it. But they're a really, really good company. We should be meeting with the new consultant very soon. But one way or another, Sears is probably going to come down. Boscov's has done well. Dick's Sporting Goods has done well. Dick's Sporting Goods probably, if anything, wants to expand. Macy's all over the country is struggling, especially since they have a Macy's right down the road at Menlo Park. So we don't know what's going to happen with that. And Penny's is struggling. So a couple that are doing good, a couple that are struggling, one vacant and one that's sold. The trick with Woodbridge Center, it's so difficult because all 6 tenants have to agree on anything. It's dysfunctional. If Penny's pisses off Boscov's in the Monmouth Mall or the Paramus Park Mall, or if one pisses the other off and they don't get along, they can stop anything. We can't do much. They can. New owners can't do much without a consensus. But they are doing the right thing. They're very, very smart, and they know exactly what they're doing. Next up, just a couple other issues. You all know about the Smith Street crack. About 2 months ago, September 4th, I think it was, the road collapsed. It just broke. It looked like an earthquake. We have the mayor of Perth Amboy with us, Helman Kaba. Helman is a pleasure to work with. There's a warehouse project right on the border of Woodbridge and Perth Amboy. Half of it's going to be in our town, half in their town. So the developers, Brookfield, needs the approval of both towns, both governing bodies, both mayor's offices, and both redevelopment agencies. So that's something that could lead to a lot of trouble between the two of us, but we are doing great. Carol's counterpart in Perth Amboy, Tashi, is phenomenal. The mayor has been great with the project. And then the crack happened. Now, even though it's mostly in Woodbridge, it still impacts Perth Amboy. All the residents who are impacted are in Woodbridge. So it's a very difficult situation. They're in the final stages of an agreement. Brookfield has agreed to pay for the road without admitting any liability for it. That's going to be investigated. It's going to take a long time. I'm telling the residents of Caseby, your best bet is June. The most likely scenario for you using that road again is September, which makes it almost a year from the start of the crack to the finish of when you can actually use the road. But the people involved, the county's engineers are great. They've been wonderful. We were meeting every Monday morning for 8 weeks, and now it's down to once a month, and the engineers meet more often. But it's a very difficult situation. But Mayor, I know if you're still here, Mayor Caba, and your Perth Amboy team, there you are, Mayor Caba. We talked for a while today on the contract that they're working on, so it's great to work with you and your team. Thank you. We are buying the credit union building right across from Town Hall on Berry Street. It was up for sale. We didn't even know it was up for sale, and somebody said something to us, and we said, that's interesting. So at one of our staff meetings, I said, anybody think of what we could do with that building if we bought it? And John Mitch raised his hand right away and said we should move the court over there, and we all started thinking, what a great idea. The court's in crowded space in Town Hall. It's in the worst spot. This Town Hall is the worst designed building, municipal building in the country. It really is. It really is. And I was working for the town back then. I paid the bills, but I didn't design the building. You would never put a court on the first floor so that when everybody walks in the building, they go to the mayor's office or to go to a council meeting or to go anywhere to pay your taxes or to get a license, you see the court. No, most towns have courts separately, even a separate entrance in the same building or a separate building. It makes absolutely no sense. And until we moved the waiting room inside, the waiting room used to be the lobby of Town Hall. So you'd have second graders coming in for a trip to meet the mayor, and they go stepping over people waiting for court. Not the best look. So John's right. So we are buying the building. We're a couple of weeks away from closing. We're going to retrofit that and move the people from the court over. We really have a parking problem in Town Hall. There's really not enough parking. It was badly designed way back then in the 90s, but in any event, now there's also a parking lot at the court site and the building site, and there's also parking behind it. So we're going to relieve a lot of that, and perhaps we can move some spots that are renting other places into Town Hall. So we're working on it, but it's a very good purchase for the town. We also are looking at the first aid building on Route 1. You may have read that we took over another one of our 5 first aid squads. We have the Ford's First Aid Squad, which closed many, many years ago. They were doing business with Linden First Aid, even though we said, why don't you work with another one of our first aid squads? And Linden didn't know Woodbridge. And down there in that area, you look at a map and it's like a spaghetti bowl of Parkway, Turnpike, 19, 287, 440, 27, you name it. They were getting lost. It was just not a good situation. They went out of business, and Woodbridge First Aid took over the Fords. A couple of years ago, Woodbridge said we can't do Fords anymore, so we took it over. We hired 2 supervisors, 8 first aid squad members, hired Dennis Petrick from Hope Lawn Fire. He was an expert. He might have run Hackensack's operation or one of the hospitals he ran, and he runs it for us now. So that's been great. Now we had 5 squads. Avenel's fine, Port Reading's fine, Colonia's fine. Woodbridge, not so much. They have this big giant building. They overbought, they overpaid, they overbuilt, and they had a lot of money loaded on a mortgage, and they also went out of business and said, not only can we not do Fords, we can't even do our own anymore. So we took over the Woodbridge squad and hired 8 more people, and now we run 2 of the 5 squads. So we want to get that building, and we were just starting negotiations with them, and we're going to do the offers and all that. But ultimately, we're going to get it, because if we need it for a public purpose, we can get it, and we will get it. And we're going to be fair with them, but we're not going to overpay. So we're going to hopefully do the right thing and get that building. Another project in town ultimately is a huge work on State Street on the Perth Amboy border, and we're working with Buckeye. We have very much concerns about the project because they want to close Ferry Street for we don't know how long. It's a little bit away, but if you close Ferry Street and there's a train coming, then you're blocking Woodbridge Avenue, you're blocking Milos Way, and you're blocking Deborah Place, because a train can take up that long of a space, and then you can't get to a house fire or a car fire or anything in Seawarren. So it's taken us a while, but we finally got the state to agree that anything they do for that will be cleared with us. On Main Street, we're looking at a sidewalk project similar to what's going on with Oak Tree Road. If you make that better, right now it's a 1994 maybe we did the brick pavers, and they're sagging and they're bumpy and they're just, it's too old. It's 30 years old. We're going to do a whole new sidewalk project because Main Street's hopping. We're not Main Street Metuchen yet. We're not Main Street Cranford yet or Westfield yet, but we're on the way, and we have to invest. So we're going to do a project with brand new sidewalks up and down Main Street and probably a little bit around the corner. We'll probably split the costs with the merchants through the Special Improvement District. So that's something we're working on. And the last thing I want to, well, not the last thing, but one thing that's very important, another way we're working with Perth Amboy is the Raritan Bay YMCA, which is tremendous. Steve Jobin's here. He's the head of the Raritan Bay YMCA. He's helping us with homeless. He's helped us with domestic violence. We have places in town where domestic violence victims can go. Obviously, you can't say anything about where they are, because if the person who caused the domestic violence finds out where the ex is staying, it's not good. So we have it. We also have a couple in Perth Amboy that we use because we have an agreement with the Raritan Bay YMCA. Now the Raritan Bay YMCA is looking at a spot in Woodbridge that they want to use, and we're very willing to work with them and very willing to commit our affordable housing money to that project. We no longer have an affordable housing requirement. We met our requirement with the state. We don't have to build anymore, but we still don't want to use that. We're going to still build because it's the right thing to do. The other reason why is if the first 6 or 7 or 8 apartment complexes had to set aside 15% for their affordable housing requirement, instead of getting $2,800 a month, they get $800 a month because that's what the law says. We can't say to the next complex, well, you don't have a requirement. We don't have a requirement, so we're not going to make you do it. That's completely unfair to the ones who have already done it. So in Metro Park, for example, Russo has a requirement to put their apartments there 15% affordable. The next one looking at anything in Metro Park, if they don't have it, it's really not fair to the first one. So we passed an ordinance a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago that said if you are a new complex, you can buy out of your affordable housing obligation by paying us $250,000 per unit that you don't build. And when you look at $2,000 a month times 12 months times 40 years, and you say, okay, I'm going to not have to have that loss of revenue. I'll just give the town $250. We can go as high as $300, and I'll buy out. That's good for them, and we think they're all going to approve it. And that gives us millions more that we can do things in town, even though we don't have to do it, because the right thing to do is to help with affordable housing. There's a housing shortage all over the county, the state, the country, you name it. It's all people, a lot of what people talk about. And even though we don't have to build it, we believe we should. And when you can do it with other people's money, it's even easier. So next slide. We have 10 senior housing projects. The Housing Authority runs 6 of them. The 4 on the outsides are the new ones that have been gone up. In the middle and the bottom, you see Cooper Tower on Oak Tree Road. The last place you'd put senior housing when you have a beautiful Oak Tree Road shopping district is right in the middle of the shopping district. So we're looking to move it. It's an old building. It's from the 50s. It's fallen apart as it is. It'll take millions and millions to renovate or a little bit more to build new. So we're looking for a spot down towards St. Cecilia's to do that. The top middle is Griner Towers. That's not as old as Cooper, but it's still pretty old. And we're using some of our affordable housing money to upgrade that. New HVAC, new electric, new plumbing. We're going to make that just as good as new. So we're very committed to the senior housing in the township. Next up is our schools. We have a better relationship with the school district than probably any town in the entire state of New Jersey. We don't have to work with them on helping them like we do, but we do. We have a very unique way of, I've said it over and over again in the campaign, I had to say it again and again because people just don't grasp it, or what's more likely, they grasp it but still want to cause trouble. We built a brand new Ross Street school. The school district built it, we paid for it. They built an almost brand new middle school, a gigantic addition, and it's beautiful. Matthew Jago School 28 in Seawarren had a gigantic addition. School 25 and Ford's had a gigantic addition. We mentioned Avenel Street 4 and 5, a brand new 4, and a year from now they'll have a brand new 5. All kinds of other improvements in schools. School 22 and 24 were separated, separate buildings. We connected them all so kids don't have to put their jacket on to go to lunch or to go to gym. We have paid for technology. We paid for full-day kindergarten, which was a huge hit. And most of all, we paid for school security for the school district. Last thing we want is a problem with that. Our superintendent is really keyed up on security. Brian Small, who's on our council, is the head of school security. Our schools, every school has a cop in it, retired cop that carries. They're all experienced. Every school at every time has a cop. I like that. I like that. We expanded it to all of our main buildings. Town Hall, 8:30 to 4:30, there's a cop with a gun. The Club of Woodbridge, there's a cop with a gun. The community center, there's a cop with a gun. That's good. It's bad that we have to do it. It's good that we do it. So we do have the perfect partnership with our school district. I have a speech next week at the League of Municipalities in Atlantic City. I'm talking about pilots, and Dr. Massimino, who's the school superintendent, is going to be there with me. There's going to be all kinds of mayors in the audience that are going to say, what's the school guy doing here? And they probably don't understand because they don't talk to their school superintendent, or they might be suing them, and he might be suing them, he or she, who knows. It's safe to say nobody has what we have. The next big project is a new Hope Lawn School. Way back until 1990, it was on Clyde Avenue. It got old, and the school district closed it 30 some odd years ago. The kids from Hope Lawn and the kids from Caseby literally travel 35 minutes a day each way to go to school. They either go to School 9 in Port Reading, they go to Ford School 25, or they go to Menlo Park Terrace School 19. They're over a half an hour away each way, and that's just not acceptable. They don't do after-school activities. Their parents don't drive to the PTO. The kids don't play sports. They don't stay after school for art or anything. It's not a good situation, so we're building another brand new school. The state has been, we're filming this, right? Difficult to deal with. We are trading Green Acres land. The school is going on a park that's Green Acres, and as a result of that, we have to provide, we're giving that land to school, and they're giving us other land. We have to do at least a 2-for-1 acre trade, and we're doing a 2.5-for-1 acre trade. We're getting land at School 22 that's woods. We're going to make that open space, and we're getting land at School 14, which closed, which we're going to turn into a gigantic handicapped accessible playground. Every time we do something different, somebody in the state's got to approve it. We got to go to this board and that board. It's just a pain in the neck. My first email on this project goes back to September of 23, and we're now in November of 25. And I don't know if we're going to start with a shovel in the ground, and even in the first half of 2026. It's a nightmare. But at the end of the day, we're going to have another brand new school in town paid for by all of these economic development projects and not by everyday tax dollars, which, again, I can explain forever, but trust me, it works. Next up, we have two really cool things we did in the last year. Councilman Vinnie Martino, former Councilman Vinnie Martino, passed away a year or two ago. We dedicated a park in Port Reading to him. Previously, we had dedicated another site in Port Reading to former Mayor Joe DiMarino. I don't know how many of you know both of them. They were friends until they weren't. They were rivals, but good friends. And we did a metal sign on a building for Port Reading Saints Field for Joe DiMarino. It was nice, But once we did the park for Vinny with a beautiful sign, and it was a whole entire complex, I can just see them up in heaven. And Vinny says, I got a better park than you did. And JoJo says, oh yeah, I'll call the mayor. So I talked to Brian Small one day before we dedicated the Martino sign, and I said, this doesn't seem right that we're doing this for Vinny and we didn't do the same thing for Joe DiMarino. So we did, and we named the Cypress Park in Port Reading across from the firehouse the Joe DiMarino Park. So they're both up there, and now they're just fighting about how many people went to each other's opening ceremonies. And probably how big the letters are on the sign. They're probably fighting over everything. But they were two amazing public servants, and they both deserve it. The mayor was on the Board of Ed. He had 2 terms as mayor. He was a sheriff. He was a Woodbridge police officer, a fire commissioner. Vinny was a fire commissioner, councilman, on the county commissioner board. Back then they were called freeholders, both terrific public service. That's something that we really should mention. And we close by saying, Woodbridge Township, the best town around. I don't want to make this, what is that? Okay, took a little bit. I don't want to make this questions and answers because we have an open bar next door and they're putting the food out. So if you have any questions, ask us privately. I don't want to bore anybody here unless you really want to ask a question. Nobody good. Thank you very much.